Crystal, and I'm here to give a review on this book called Eleanor Oliphant is Completely Fine. Where do I begin? I've been wanting to do a book review on this for so long, but I just haven't had the time or the chance to, and I just felt like I really had to do one just for this book. So, this book is really something that really struck me emotionally. It's one of the best books that I've actually ever read, especially in terms of mental health. It's really an eye-opener. So I felt like I really had to do a review on this. A summary of this book is it's about this girl called Eleanor Oliphant who lives a so-called, mundane life where she works and she has a fixed routine, and she's in her late 20s to 30 already, and she's just leading a very, mundane routine life. Nothing's ever overly exciting, nothing's ever changing. She just has her own routine. And the whole story is about her falling in love with this musician, and she tries her best to pursue him. And at the same time, she tries to help an old man who apparently has fallen down, and she also meets another co-worker called Raymond who, sets things off a little bit in her life. At first glance, if you were to read the book, you might feel like it's a little bit boring. And fair enough, because for some people who have read the book, there's been different reactions. Some people really didn't like the story, they couldn't really get into it or really find Eleanor lovable or likable or all that. Well, for some people, they really loved it. And for me, I was one of those people. Like, Eleanor is quite dislikable at first because and her colleagues, they don't like her, they gossip about her behind her back, and she really doesn't have any friends. And some people who might even say it's because of the way she behaves, because she's very particular about grammar, she's very straight to the point, she's extremely blunt, and she completely misses social cues, which annoys a lot of people, I guess. And the reason why I loved the book is really simple. The moment I started reading, all I could think of was, oh my god, I don't think she's okay. Like, I don't think she's okay, and I can sort of understand. Like, it's the I know that some people find her character extremely weird and maybe even off-putting, but I really didn't find that weird at all. At first I found her a bit like, oh, why is she being so particular about stuff? Why is she like that? But I never once found her behavior weird. I was having this feeling that something wasn't quite right about her, and she was suppressing stuff. And when you read and get more into the story, yes, you realize that she's been suppressing and undergoing a severe amount of trauma that would have left a lot of people just completely helpless. But she survived it, of course, with differences in her personality and the way she behaved. And I can really understand why some people would not like the book. If you don't really like the pace of the book, because the pacing is a little bit slow. There was a point in the book where I did find the middle part quite draggy, and it was, to me, unnecessarily long, so I did lose a bit of the momentum there. But there's a part after you skip, you just go through it, the start and the end really just kind of maintain that momentum. And Eleanor is a character that you love to hate and you would hate to love. I really fell in love with Eleanor Oliphant. She is, to me, an amazing woman, and she's very blunt, and she can come across as annoying to people, but if you have undergone certain things yourself personally, you will really understand why you're not surprised by the way she behaves. Like, I'm not surprised by the way she behaves at all. When she was young, she did not have the opportunity to socialize with people normally. She didn't have that freedom, that happiness, because she had undergone such a severe childhood, and it physically changes your brain. There were many times in the book where when I read it, like, as a person, if you've undergone trauma and you have always felt alone, to read a character that so honestly, it was such a brutally, to me, honest depiction of something that even I have been through before. And to just read something like that on the page, and to realize that someone out there, an author, a writer, a person, a human being, has understood what that experience is like and has written it for the character. I mean, I cried for days. I was honestly on a reading slump. I wasn't reading as much books as I would like, but I was reading fan fiction. And I just thought I was just really in a very, like, bad spot. Honestly, I was in quite a depressive and negative slump because of several issues with myself and my school and all that. And I just on a hunch, I just typed, books with traumatic characters, and this book came up, and I was honestly quite suspicious because I don't really read books like that. The last book that I read was about like very sensitive issues, was probably like Easy by Tamara Weber. But even then, I couldn't really get into it. But the moment I started reading the book, I remember it was at night. I started screaming, "Oh my god. Oh my god, like this girl, like I understand why she is the way she is. Like I can understand her mannerisms, the way she speaks, how she views people, how she doesn't trust people. I can totally get it. So that's the reason why I wasn't annoyed. Like at the start, you're most likely gonna be very annoyed by her. You're gonna probably hate her, even hate her guts, because you don't understand why she is. The more you turn the pages, the more the story unfolds. More clues about her life unfolds, and how she only has a plant to talk to at home. That's the only thing. She has a severe, very, very bad drinking problem. She drinks a lot of alcohol to numb the pain at night. And she speaks to someone who, you find the story is called her mother. She has a regular phone calls with her so-called mother. And yes, there's spoiler alerts. You're going to realize that the mother is not really real anymore. And how is it to me, it's impossible not to cry over this, because she's a character that is so broken, is so damaged to the point that you can't even imagine. She survived a house fire. She survived, yes, spoiler alert, she survived trying to be burned down. She tried rescuing her sister and she was burnt alive, and how many, for anyone who thinks that she's odd and she's just plain irritating, like, have you ever gone through something like that? And how many people do you know have gone through something to that degree, and have come out completely fine? Because, and that's the part of the novel, isn't it? The title in itself is so telling. Eleanor Oliphant is completely fine. And that's the whole point of the story, is that Eleanor Oliphant is completely not fine. She's not completely fine. And the world wants her to be fine because she has a fixed routine, she has a job, she has this social norm that she knows that people are having, and person A, person B, and her colleagues are all having a certain social pattern, and she's observed this her whole life. But being forced out of that circle at such a early age, against her consent, against her will, she's forced to just observe, and she does not understand. And of course, how could she understand? She isn't like them, and she's never going to be like them. Her face has been scarred by the fire, and she's been through things that many of her colleagues, many of people would have never even understood what it's like. And this novel, to me, the title itself is the answer. It's about how Eleanor Oliphant is actually not completely fine, and it's okay to be not completely fine, because so many of us, at least from what I can interpret from the book, my personal interpretation is that it's a book about loneliness. It's a book about trauma, like very severe trauma. It's a book about society and how we view these people, and how traumatic people try to go through life. It's normal life, and try to fit into normal society when it's really hard to. And this book is it's like a warm hot chocolate against a cold frigid winter night. And I mean, it's one of the best books that I've probably ever read in my life, that was really important to, well, anything to do with mental health, because it doesn't paint a pretty picture. And I think that's the strength, one of the biggest strengths of this book, is that I think it's really easy to gild over things and have a lot of allusions and different metaphors and all of that, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. I do love those books a lot, and I love writing like that too. But this is just one of the books that was really in your face, because you are in her head. You are reading as Eleanor, and that's the reason why some people may not be used to how she's behaving. They're like, what the heck are you doing? Why are you acting like that? But you are literally in her head, and you're reading how she's feeling. And this is just one of those books that is so brutally honest with exactly how a traumatized person can feel. I'm not saying that's the only way to feel. It's one of the ways that a person who's undergone a lot of severe trauma can behave, and they don't. And the author Gail Honeyman, she doesn't try to paint it with like rose colored anything. She's very honest about it, and that's the reason why I love the book so much. I mean, if I could just pull out some quotes that I have absolutely fallen in love with. This is just one of the quotes that I'm going to read that I mean I love so many quotes from the books because it's just so relatable. And so one of the quotes is, was this how it worked then? Successful social integration. Was it really that simple? Wear some lipstick, go to the hairdressers and alternate the clothes you wear? So you can just tell from this quote alone, it just really very easily and very straightforwardly depicts how she views things that are apparently very normal to some ladies and some girls. To us, some people, having makeup, and just that's literally so normal. It's so easy for some girls to just socialize and make friends with people or boys or girls or whatever. It's like nothing, it's easy. While for her, she's like having to analyze and be like, is this really how you do it? Because she's never had a chance to be in that circle. So another quote is probably, oh my god, there's so many quotes in the book that really moved me to tears because it, like I said, I've said it before, like this book has really comforts the heart of anyone who feels really alone, because you realize that you're actually not alone and there's an author who actually understands. So one of the quotes is, I tried to cope alone for far too long and it hadn't done me any good at all. Sometimes you simply needed someone kind to sit with you while you dealt with things. By Gail Honeyman. And some of the writings that you might find a bit weird or quirky is, my hair was mosey brown, parted in the center, straight and not particularly thick. Human hair, doing what human hair does, growing on my head. So some people might be like, what do you mean? Like, that's just the obvious. But it's exactly the point. Things that are obvious for normal people who have successfully integrated themselves into society are just extremely difficult for her, and it's just so blatant. Just so many quotes that I probably could share and I would love to share. And this is probably one of my favorite quotes ever. But no one had ever shown me the right way to live a life, and although I tried my best over the years, I simply didn't know how to make things better. I could not solve the puzzle of me. And you can see that despite her so-called aloofness in the writing of at least the way Eleanor speaks, is that it may come across as very aloof or cold or very like white, like very observational, but there's a lot of undercurrents of you can really understand the emotions behind the so-called aloofness and observational attitude of the way she speaks. You can really see so much struggle and so much pain that she can't even know how to express. She doesn't know how to express her pain. It's not that she doesn't want to, she doesn't know what to do. And oh, I feel like I'm gonna be moved to tears again because, like I said, this book is really all about, to me, it's all about mental health. It's an anthem to mental health, an anthem against loneliness, because loneliness is a thing. It is a thing. It's a huge thing. It's, yes, there's people, and loneliness is ever so aggravated and so prevalent when you're surrounded by people who seem to already have friends and know what they're doing, and you don't. Like, loneliness is only ever exacerbated when you realize that you're in a place where you just don't fit in, right? That's where you feel even more lonely than you already do feel. So, this book has done, to me, checked all the boxes. And yeah, if you're a person who's struggling with mental health and you've been gone through a really bad trauma before, and you feel strange or you feel odd, please just read this book. I really think everybody needs to read this book. It's just, to me, it's a book that really teaches you a lot about empathy and knowing that you're not as alone as you think that you might be in your troubles, and you don't have to be alone. Sometimes it's literally just a person remembering you like a cup of tea, and that's what happened in the book. Raymond's mom just remembered that she ate a certain thing and gave her tea and a drink, and she was really moved by that. It's just this tiny act of care. You might think it's so grandiose, but just tiny act of care is able to let Eleanor know that she's loved. And it's insane. And it's exactly how people who have been really traumatized feel. That the slightest act of kindness is insane to them. It's just crazy. So, I mean, I feel like this book should be recommended to people of, well, most ages, at least from secondary school onwards, because it just really makes you understand people who might seem different from you. And and people who might act a little bit odd or aloof or whatever, there always could be a reason for that. You can just see it in the writing itself, the words that she says, her so-called observations, and you can just see the loneliness. Because why else would she observe? Why would she, if she really didn't care, why would Eleanor try to observe and understand? Why the hell could she not, understand these socializing things? She really wanted to understand, and she's always been wanting to understand. So I mean, it just tugs at my heartstrings, and it's a book that I will forever recommend. It's something that I think certain people with a lot of traumatic past can empathize with. So as I have empathized with, because of how lovable she is in the end. So it teaches you a lot on how to realize that people who seem really lonely and are different from you, you can always try and love them, and you don't have to think that it's not your problem, because that's what Raymond does. So what if the person is alone? It doesn't mean that it's none of your business, because the world has too many people like that where it's none of your business, it's all about me. But I think that, especially to people like that, I think love and care is just the utmost thing, and understanding. So yeah, please read the book. Like, I would rate this like probably like 10,000 stars out of 10, really, just because of the message and kind of knowledge it brings for any reader, and the level of empathy that you will gain, and or you can relate to even. And I just think it's one of the more valuable books to read. I mean, all books are valuable, but this is a really valuable book on, well, to me, mental health issues. So I also feel like, with this current era of the digital age where everything is so digital and all about social media, it's so easy to lose that connection, that sort of understanding that you can only get face to face with people. And yes, I mean, I'm not saying that social media has no benefits. It has a lot of benefits. It connects you when you're not able to physically connect with people. But sometimes when it comes to empathy and really just, well, what I would call a human touch, you just really needed someone to sit by you. And I think it's one of the things that I learned from the book. It's that a cup of coffee with somebody, or just Raymond asking, where do you want to go out to? It was just like that. It was so simple. And I feel like that's being lost nowadays. And I think that people really should get out of their phones more and really try to understand and see that there are a lot of pain outside in the world. So yeah, that's it for my book review of Eleanor Oliphant. It's completely fine. Please read it and let me know what you think. Bye.